Hey everybody, Bullock popping in here to say this turned out to be a much longer episode than I anticipated. So what I'm showing you on the screen is some particular timestamps of things that you might want to look at. If somebody says, hey, you need to learn how to use so correctly, or hey, you should go look at the correlative conjunctions part of this video, you can skip right to that. I do recommend watching the whole thing, but maybe not all in one sitting. Thanks. Do you ever wonder why when you're walking sometimes your shoes just come untied for no reason? I wonder that too. Has nothing to do with what this video is about. We're still talking about sentences, so here's the theme song. Hey everybody, episode 5, one for the fanboys. That's right. This is for you, the millions of you who make it to BullockCon every year and you dress up and you reenact all the... Sorry, I even cracked myself up on that one. That's just obviously not true. Fanboys though, because we're talking about conjunctions. We're actually going to cover two types of conjunctions today. Conjunctions that can help us make compound sentences, as well as conjunctions that can be used in simple or compound sentences. And I've called it one for the fanboys because most of you probably know by now that FANBOYS is an acronym. If you take the first letter of the 7 words in the English language that comprise our coordinating conjunctions, they spell FANBOYS. Now, I threw a term out there, coordinating conjunctions. When we talk about coordinating conjunctions, we usually just say conjunctions. They're the most common kind of conjunction. They're not the only kind of conjunction, but when most people say the word conjunction, they're thinking of the coordinating conjunctions. And those are, of course, for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. Fanboys. Now before I get into the fanboys, I want to give a couple of caveats, say a couple of things before we move ahead. One of them is that a lot of the fanboys, 3 of them in particular, do double duty in the English language. The word for, as an example, also is used as a very, very common preposition. Here's a sentence. I ordered pizza for my class. For is a preposition. It tells the recipient of the pizza that has been ordered. You've also got yet. That is a pretty common adverb. I ordered pizza for my classes, but it's not here yet. There's no conjuncting there, it's just adverbing. So is also a pretty common adverb. I ordered pizza for my classes, but it hasn't gotten here yet, and now we are so hungry. So just be aware, because you see a fanboy word does not automatically mean that it's a conjunction or a coordinating conjunction in particular. It might be doing some other work in the sentence. And here's the second thing I want to say, and this one is tremendously important to me because it bugs me to death. I know I've talked in this series before about the way our oral language is different from our written language, and the things that we say are not always represented accurately in the way we would write them, particularly when we're writing in an academic style. And here's the one that bugs me. It's particularly true with the conjunction but. Now I know my producer is probably sitting there at the controls and he's going to put in a giggling or a laughing or a laugh track sound every time I say the word but. I have to do this though. I have to say this. When we speak and we want to show contrast, we use the word but and our voices to really mark that contrast. So you might say a sentence like, I ordered pizza for everybody, but it took so long to arrive. The pause, the way you've extended the but into being, I don't know, 15 seconds long, that is different from the way you would write it. So what happens is a lot of students, when they're writing, even when they're writing a formal essay, they will type the first part of a compound sentence, then they will immediately write the word but. They will often write it in capital letters or type it in capital letters, and then they'll do a ... or they'll do a comma after the but. But here's the thing. In formal written English, it's always comma, conjunction. It's never conjunction, comma. I mean, can't say never. There are some special circumstances. If you really want me to get into them, leave me a comment below and I'll do a special video on when you can do conjunction, comma. But 99.999% of the time, you're going to say comma, conjunction. So when you're writing and you want to put that huge emphasis on the word but, you want to make it clear that there is this giant contrast you're trying to get at, you can't. I'm sorry. In a formal piece of writing, it's independent clause, comma, but independent clause. If you really want to put that emphasis on something, then think about rewriting the sentence so that the part you want to emphasize comes first, and you don't have to rely on a but kind of construction. Does that make sense? All right. One other thing, I'm going to skip over and but, because they're the most common conjunctions, and I feel pretty confident that most of you out there watching have an understanding of how to use and or but to create a compound sentence. I ordered pizza for my class, and I ordered some sodas. I ordered pizza for my class, but I forgot to order breadsticks, right? Really easy, really simple. You do it all the time, and I have confidence that I don't have to spend a lot of time on it, and you'll be okay. But I do want to start with the F, for. For has kind of this old-fashioned-y feel when it's used as a coordinating conjunction. And when you use it in your writing, you might sound old-fashioned-y, but there are times when sounding old-fashioned-y, or as some people would call it, formal, there are times when sounding that way is important. When you want to do it, when you want it to sound that way on purpose. Okay, think back again to episode 0. Writers write what they write on purpose. Think about the conjunction that you want to use, and if you want to use for, use for. For, as a conjunction, shows cause and effect. Carrie did not eat any of the pizza, for she is vegan. You might be thinking to yourself, why can't we just use because? Because is like the most common word in the world that indicates a cause and effect relationship. Well, you could. Carrie didn't eat any of the pizza because she is vegan. But because is also the most common conjunction in the world that shows a cause and effect. If you're writing a paper and you've got a lot of becauses in a paragraph or in a section, you may want to think about changing some of those to for. Again, it has that sense of formality, but it also provides a variety when you're trying to avoid overuse of a word like because. The other thing I really like about for when you're showing cause and effect is that for creates two equal halves, right? It's a coordinating conjunction, so it creates one independent clause coordinated to a second independent clause. Both of these carry approximately equal weight. But compare that to the word because. Whenever you use because, you actually create a subordinate clause. Because is a subordinating conjunction. And we're going to talk more about subordinating clauses in a future series about sentences, but you can tell from the word subordinate, it's lower. It's much lower. Carrie didn't eat any of the pizza because she's a vegan. When you say it like that, and yes, I used my vocal inflection a little bit to get the point across a little bit more strongly, you are putting less emphasis and less importance on the cause than on the effect. Carrie didn't have any pizza, for she is vegan. Now there, you are providing much more close to equal weight to both the cause and effect. Sometimes you just gotta use it. It really works in that situation, and I encourage you to try it out sometime. It's time to move on to nor. Nor is often used with its cousin neither, and we'll actually talk about that in about 4 or 5 minutes when I get to correlative conjunctions. But nor is a good way to say that two things are not true, or two things did not happen. But the reason why you might want to use it is because you can combine sentences that might otherwise be near each other or next to each other, but have very similar constructions. Carrie didn't eat any pizza. Carrie didn't eat any breadsticks. You combine those two sentences with nor, and you've got something that's a little bit more fancy, a little bit more academic, a little bit more professional. Carrie didn't eat any pizza, nor did she eat any breadsticks. That's a combined sentence, a compound sentence, that sounds a little bit more formal, a little bit nicer than just two simple sentences in a row. All right, now we're at or, which, like its friend nor up in the fan part of Fanboys, has a cousin either. And we'll get to that again in a couple of minutes when we get to correlative conjunctions. But or works perfectly fine as a coordinating conjunction, or just a plain old conjunction between two independent clauses. And what I really love about or is that it's kind of a time machine, because you can use or to talk about choices in the present, you can use or to talk about choices in the past, and you can use or to talk about choices in the future, right? So again, to think about pizza, you might have a sentence like this. We have pepperoni pizza, or we have sausage pizza, right? It's obvious now why Carrie is completely disappointed by this pizza party. You can use it in the past, right? You could say something like, Tommy ate all the pizza, or maybe he just threw the box away. I don't know. We don't like Tommy. He's, always throwing boxes away. And you can use or to talk about the future, right? I will order from Pizza Hut, or I will order from one of the fine local pizza establishments. And that brings us to yet. Yet, like for at the beginning of Fanboys, when you use it as a conjunction, it kind of has an old-fashioned-y or academic feel to it. And that's to your advantage, because the word that yet most often can replace is but. Yet, like but, shows contrast. But here's the thing, the contrast being shown, there's some different connotation. So let me talk about Carrie and her veganism again for just a second. And I'm going to say both of these sentences right after the other, but I'm going to put them both up on the screen at the same time. Carrie is a vegan, but she let me order pizza. Carrie is a vegan, yet she let me order pizza. Okay, those two sentences have exactly the same literal meaning. There's this woman, she's named Carrie. She's a vegan. She's not going to eat the pizza. But in the first one, where I used the word but, it kind of sounds like I asked Carrie's permission. And she said, oh, you know what? Everybody else likes pizza. Everybody else can eat pizza. You guys go ahead. I've got a protein bar in my bag. The second one where I used yet, and let me say it again, because I really want you to feel this one. Carrie's a vegan, yet she let me order pizza. That kind of makes it sound like it's Carrie's fault that she's not going to have anything to eat except for that protein bar in her bag. Right? That she had a chance to speak up and she didn't. So I want you to consider that. I want you to keep that in mind. Again, writers write what they write on purpose, and you should write what you write on purpose. And so making that decision between but or yet is an important one, because it really can change the meaning behind your sentence. The literal meaning may not change, but the connotative meaning, the feeling, can change. And that's what's so great about having multiple words in English that have the same literal meaning, that you can pick the one that has the right feeling as well. And that brings us to our last coordinating conjunction, so. So is another word that shows cause and effect, and a lot of you use it correctly, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that part of it. The class was hungry, so I ordered them pizza, right? You got it. You're fine. Here's my thing about so. And as much as the whole but thing annoys me, and it really does, so annoys me so much more, because here's what happens. Every school year, every single school year, I have 8 or 10 kids who want to start every single sentence with the word so. Okay? Now, if you're paying attention to me right now, you can understand, A, I'm getting upset about it. I'm getting worried. But you also know that so is a conjunction. You probably don't want to use it at the beginning of a sentence. And here's the thing, again, where our oral language doesn't match what's acceptable formal written language, right? Because you can have this whole story about a pizza party that uses so everywhere. Like totally, it's off the top of my head. So I went to Bullock's class today, and he was like, "You guys hungry?" So we were all like, "Yeah, we're totally hungry." So he got on the phone and he ordered us pizza. So then the pizza was really late and we got really kind of hangry about it. So then when it was finally there, we like rushed it. So it was really hard to get in to get a piece of pizza. So I only got one slice and it was pepperoni, and I hate pepperoni, but I ate it anyway because I was hungry. So then I look over in the corner and Carrie's not eating anything. So I ask Carrie, like, "Carrie, what's your problem?" So she's all like, "I'm a vegan." That would be a perfectly acceptable sentence in a conversation with your friend. Okay, maybe not perfectly acceptable. Your friend is probably going to be like, "Shut up." But if you tried to write that, it would be terrible. It would be just awful. Here is my recommendation to you, starting now and going forward forever in time. When you are writing, particularly when you are writing in an academic setting, you're going to turn this into your English teacher, you're going to turn it into a social studies teacher, science teacher, music teacher, math teacher, whoever. Read through your work and take out every single so at the beginning of a sentence. Every single one. Please. Please. I said we were going to talk about 2 kinds of conjunctions. We've already covered the first, the coordinating conjunction, usually just called conjunction. The second is the correlative conjunction. Now, correlative is a long, difficult word, but think about the word. It starts with co, which means with, right? That's our conjunction that means with. You co-write a paper with somebody, and then it's relative. And you know who your relatives are. They're people who are close. So it's bringing things that are close together to be with each other. And the way correlative conjunctions work is that Like shoes, they always come in pairs. That's right, everybody. The cold open with the shoelace, that was just a setup for this bad joke later. I kind of regret it now. There are a lot of correlative conjunctions that you already know. And in fact, I've already talked about neither nor and either or, right? You could probably use those in your sleep. Those are kind of drilled into your head. But there are some other correlative conjunctions that are good to know. And I will tell you why. Good use of correlative conjunctions can make you sound smart. It really can. Either or, neither nor, those aren't particularly academic phrases. But if you want to sound smart, you could use something like not only, but also. Not only did Bullock order us some pizza, but he also ordered us some breadsticks. Right? That doesn't sound very good with the pizza example. But let's put it in the realm of science. Not only did Darwin formulate the theory of evolution by natural selection, but he also published what has become the most popular book on the subject. Right? There are some other good correlative conjunctions out there. I would suggest the no sooner than pair of correlative conjunctions. No sooner did I approach the pizza than somebody grabbed it right out from in front of me. Again, about pizza, not very impressive, but no sooner had Darwin landed in the Galapagos than he discovered something interesting about the finches. Okay? There's other things like whether and or. And this is weather with an H, not weather like what's outside. And a helpful hint, you can always remember which weather to use because the weather with an H is kind of like a question. And it goes with who, what, when, where, why. Those all start with WH. Weather also starts with the WH. And as a correlative conjunction, you'd pair it up with or. So you could say something like, I was concerned whether we would have enough pizza or if we would run out. Now, the nice thing about these correlative conjunctions is that they can almost all be used to make compound sentences, but also to make your simple sentences more interesting, right? Think about neither nor. I had neither pepperoni nor sausage pizza. Simple sentence. There's just one subject, just one verb. But using the neither and the nor gives it a little bit of an extra kick. And it means you don't have to write two separate sentences about the pizza you didn't have. Not only, but also can be used with a simple sentence, right? Not only Carrie, but also Ross is a vegan. See, you're taking simple sentences and you're spicing them up a little bit. And that's really what I'm hoping to get at with this first series about sentences, that there are so many things that you can do to make your sentences interesting and to provide a variety of different kinds of sentences in what you write. Just with these last two episodes, episodes 4 and 5, you've learned about simple sentences and compound sentences, but you've learned how you can turn those sentences into a bunch of different kinds of simple sentences and compound sentences. You can mix it up. You can make your paragraphs interesting even if you never venture into the realm of the complex or the compound complex sentence. And those are realms, and we will cover them. So, I really hope that you've learned something. There is one more episode to come in this series, and I will see you for the next one. difficult word. It's even harder than coordinating because, like, you understand what it means to coordinate something, right? That your shirt has to match your pants before you walk outside the door, or your wife is going to be like, you're not seriously going to wear that, Bullock, are you? Coordinating, that makes sense.